For Italians, the final stage of life's journey is one where cultural traditions and religious rituals often come together, even for someone who may not have demonstrated their faith in later years. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the person or their family will want to follow Catholic tradition at the end. Italians who truly follow the Catholic faith place great importance on observing appropriate rituals and religious rites as death approaches. Family members will gather at the bedside with their rosary beads for a mix of vocal and silent prayer, reflecting the important events in the life of Christ and Our Lady. Some families may prefer to have an Italian priest in the days before death to give additional comfort to the person. The main ritual to be performed when death appears imminent is to administer one of the 7 sacraments of the Church, called the last rites. This is often conducted by a priest just as or soon after death occurs. In some cases, the immediate family may be present to witness this ritual. The family may dress their loved one after death before the body is moved to the funeral home. They will also compose an obituary notice to go in the local papers announcing the date and the time of the funeral. They may put another announcement in an Italian newspaper, perhaps accompanied by a photo. In the days following the death, friends and relatives of the deceased customarily visit the mourning family to express their condolences. This period of mourning is called lutto. The grieving family doesn't usually offer refreshments to all visitors during this time, although with the younger generations now talking of celebrating somebody's life, this is slowly changing. The extended family can expect more hospitality as they congregate at the home of the deceased. Close family members or friends will cook and provide meals for the family during the days leading up to the funeral and on the day of the funeral itself. The night before the funeral, some Italian families may journey to the funeral parlour to make a final recitation of the rosary, perhaps performed with the casket open for relatives to make a direct farewell. An Italian funeral is usually a full requiem mass, after which mourners accompany the deceased to their final resting place in the cemetery. Cremations are not favoured as an alternative to burial. As a tribute to their loved one, Italian funeral caskets are usually elaborate and ornate. Being consigned to the next life in a plain casket would be humiliating, as in Italy only paupers were buried in this way. A tradition that is commonly continued in Australia for Italian families is for the deceased to be buried in a mausoleum or a crypt, where the body is kept off the ground. Most Italian families in Australia observe this ritual, and many elderly Italians will plan for this when they purchase their burial sites. After an Italian relative dies, the family may not attend any functions or social events during their time of mourning. They feel this could be seen as disrespectful to the deceased and display a lack of concern over the death. The length of the mourning period is determined by the family. During this time, they may keep curtains closed and not use the radio or TV. Some older men from southern Italy may not shave until after the funeral. Older Italian women may wear black mourning clothes for weeks, months, or even years after the death of a close loved one. Men may wear a black armband or a black button to signify their mourning. Immediate grief can be expressed differently, depending on the individual. Older Italians express their grief less often these days with wailing. Decades ago, it was customary for Italians to show their grief by tearing at their faces, hair, and clothes, but this extreme is no longer considered appropriate. 30 days after the funeral, Italians commemorate the passing of the loved one by dedicating a special Mass to them. Then, on the first anniversary of the death, they follow up with a memorial Mass. Many Italians maintain their love and respect for their loved ones for many years by regularly visiting and maintaining their grave sites.